Yeah, you are live on my end.
All right, it is 5:33. We are going to be bringing this meeting of the Annapolis Conservancy Board to order on March 9th, 2023. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Racine, for being here to record the minutes as our board liaison. The first item we have on the agenda this evening is to approve the minutes from our previous meeting on January the 12th. Racine had circulated those. Hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at them. I would open the floor for discussion of the minutes and then move to approve the minutes if there is no discussion.
I'll move to approve them if you'd like.
All right, Trudy moved to approve the minutes from January 12th. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Patrick seconds. So the motion to approve the January 12th minutes is up for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously with our 4 members present. Okay. Those were really helpful minutes because that, only meeting every other month. It's nice to have that as a reminder of what was covered. So this is my first meeting this evening presiding as chair. So I'm trying to make sure that we do everything correctly. I have not chaired meetings in the past, so this is a little bit new for me, but I put together this agenda. Hope everyone had a chance to review it. I think the first item on here that I'd like to discuss with everyone is our 2022 easement monitoring. I tried to go in and update what I could and look at the inspection reports that were in our Google Drive. And I was trying to keep tabs. Trudy, I know that you and I had some back and forth and you had inspected all of those easements.
Yes.
I know that you probably have a few things to share about those. Karen, you and Linda did Kingsport, and then I also had you down for Spa Cove, Hawkins Cove. That might have been it. Yeah. Did you have you had a chance to get to those easements yet?
Well, Linda and I did Kingsport. I think I just need to I'm not sure what I did with our notes from that, but just need to put those in. And then I have not gotten over to Hawkins Cove.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we're tracking things so that we can know what we've done and what we haven't. I started a new 2023 easement monitoring folder so we can start to put things in there. I reviewed our rules of procedure and our bylaws just to make sure that I was familiar, and in there it sounds like we're supposed to be looking at the easements each year, which I know that's quite a task to get everybody out to every easement. So I don't think we need to discuss it now, especially with not every member present who is responsible for easement monitoring. But Trudy, I will turn the floor over to you if you want to give us an update. I know that there was some findings from your easement monitoring and maybe a few things to discuss with the board.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, it was sort of an eventful year for me. Usually partly it helped to know where the boundaries are. Thank you very much. But the one that's solved, which was the most distressing, was that at Ryder's Glen, it would rained a lot, so there was an actual pond there, and the fencing around it was down, and in an area that was the gate, and so kind of a pathway, right? And so I was most upset about that, mostly because I have some history with that community. So we talked about it, and I called the Homes for America, which doesn't own Ryder's Glen. They own Homes at the Glen across the street, but they are responsible for overseeing and hiring the property management firm for Ryder's Glen. And they were distressed, felt it must have happened recently. I don't know about that, but we won't argue. They got out there the next day and repaired the fence. So that one we didn't have to push any further about how to handle it. But it was an interesting year because then, well, so that's Riders Glen. But the next issue is villages at Village Greens of Annapolis, which turned out to have actual Riders Glen implications, which the gentleman who I've known for a long time came out and showed me and said, let's go into the backyard. And the backyard of Riders Glen is a chain link fence that designated the property to Village Green. So from Riders Glen, I was just horrified at the garbage that Village Green people have allowed to accumulate, and it's a big chain link fence, so nobody can blame the Riders Glen people for the mess. They have apparently not attended to that for years. I mean, there were big objects, and somewhere I took some pictures along that fence. Now, when I went around and went in the front part, the part that their market rate tenants see, that center island, that there's a way, I guess you just call it an open space right there as you go in. And it wasn't anything like what I had seen in their property against the fence. It had trash. It needed to be picked up too. I made just a rough estimate that I'd seen, like, just without penetrating deep into the woodsy area, I'd seen about 50 pieces of stuff, the kind of things that a maintenance person could have picked up in 2 hours. I must say, I feel guilty because I did all this a month and a half ago, and I'll finish and then we can talk about what I think it raises in my mind from what I've been involved in the past. I mean, that was really quite shocking, the amount of trash back there. The low income Riders Glen is a lower income property. So, and the fellow I knew showed me where his storage shed had been caved in the roof by the dead trees on the other side of the property too. So there was both trash and standing dead trees. I'll tie these three different things I've seen, and then maybe we can talk about the policy issues that. And then I went off to Bloomsbury Square, which is really neat and tidy again, and blessings on the residents. I'm very proud to have been associated with that. It is spotless in front of their homes, and the housing authority, it's spotless street. But that area that's kind of between the fence and where some of the storage sheds are, and there's kind of woods over there, so it's towards the Row Boulevard side. Again, I found a distressing amount of real trash, and as I say, I took pictures, and then I'll finish the third one. I mean, next I went to South Cherry Grove, which is the whole landscape there is meticulous and perfect, but the sign, the MDE sign, is totally unreadable and damaged and worn out. So the sum of all these experiences was, you couldn't overlook a stormwater pond that a child could drown in by walking down Newtown Road. But what is should we do in terms of being the policeman and how to enforce it? We haven't had much in my experience where we've had too much. I remember the time out in the woods with all the tires, but a development was, Karen can help us remember how we approached it. But I really found a lot of things that I felt seemed to me like that, we're doing environmental easements, I guess, but I saw a lot of landlords that needed to be told to do things. I wondered what we all thought about that as a board, and whose job is it? I mean, I couldn't resist with Riders Glen, since I knew the cast of characters there, and we all said it's urgent, do it. So I did it, but I haven't really done anything about these others. And should I? Who should? I mean, HACA needs to be told to clean up the Bloomsbury Square stretch. I probably for a letter goes, now that it's 6 weeks, I should probably make another trip by, and it might have been winter trash. Riders Glen, I think the Village Green, I think was a history of considerable neglect, of letting trash just blow and even maybe being put there, some of it. So anyway, that's
Trudy, can I answer your question?
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
So there's a property owner, it's not the city. So what we would do is send a letter to the property owner saying this was what was found when the easement was inspected for its yearly inspection. We are asking you to remove the trash because you can't have trash dumped and collecting in the easement. Whether that gets enforced beyond that, I think it's maybe up to the city. But that's what the next step would be. And
But
in the
it's our-
past, sometimes we've drafted the letter and then given it to the city. It has to be sent from the city on city letterhead. But in the past, we've drafted it for them, and sometimes they just go ahead and send a letter. So that's kind of, maybe Racine needs to let us know how they want us to do it at this time. But that's what would happen, would be that we notify the property owner that we inspected the easement on your property. This is what we found. This is, what the problem is. Please remedy this problem.
Right. Right.
That's us, the board, saying to the property owner, that's step of the process.
Correct. Yeah. According to our rules and procedures, Roman numeral 4, procedure for addressing easement concerns, little subsection D, it says, if board members determine a violation of an impermanent nature exists, e.g. trash found within the conservation property, the board will write to the landowner of the conservation property, also known as a landowner, to inform them of the violation and request that it is resolved within a reasonable time frame. The city
Okay.
liaison, which in this case is, I believe, Racine, will mail the letter and inform the board of that letter. The board members who conducted the initial site visit will conduct a follow-up visit at the conservation property after the time frame has expired to ensure the violation is resolved. So it sounds like we draft a letter that Racine would send to the property owner.
Okay,
Okay.
I can help with that. Yes.
And Trudy, I'd be happy to help go out to the property again, take photos with you and help draft the letters if needed.
Well, if you'd like, I do feel guilty that I've let this go by, and I'm leaving in the middle of the night tonight for 10 days in Colombia. So having stirred this pot, I can't, because I do think, I do think those two places should be revisited in the possibility that somebody had spring cleaning and tidied up, What about this notion of these dead trees on the property that drop limbs, or in his case, the whole tree that damaged his storage shed? How do we feel about dead trees on easement property? I'm not clear about that. Normally, if it was in the middle of a wooded area, we wouldn't tell them to be concerned about their trees, but I don't know, trees that damage other people's property. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's between them.
Yeah, I mean, I would just suggest maybe just mention it in the letter. Like, we also noticed there's some dead trees you might want to take care of that may be threatening other property or something. I don't know. But it wouldn't be our purview to go in and remove those trees.
No. You
But
mean
we
even
can mention it, I think.
Okay. Well, if I would be happy to make up for my guilt and do this in 10 days when I get back. But if you'd like to, Patrick, you'd like to get involved, it's an interesting couple of cases. I think I haven't really seen that that much before in my travels. What about asking a state agency telling them that their sign is a disgrace? I mean, is that our purview? I mean, this beautiful area and this cruddy sign that you can't even read anymore, sitting there. And I don't imagine anybody from MDE has visited that sign in years, but
Frankly,
Trudy,
I'm not
that's a-
sure if that sign even applies anymore.
Okay. Well, it seemed to be about the preservation of the area and the theory behind it or something to the degree it could be read, which was limited, but
Because like Spot Creek Conservancy's done a big project there since then, so that's why I'm not sure if MDE's sign is really relevant anymore. It
well,
might be,
it's gonna be taken down if it is. I mean, it should be taken down
Yeah.
either way because it looks so grubby compared to that really pristine maintained site. It's really lovely over there.
Mm.
Wow.
Trudy, could I recommend that maybe you could just maybe summarize the issues that were observed
Sure.
in an email and send around, and that way we can have something to go off of while you are away.
Sure.
That would be great.
I can't do that before I go away, so hopefully I can find a way to do that for you. I do feel ashamed that I went and discovered all this and got busy doing other priorities, and you and I never got around to swapping the paperwork. So, but sure, I'll let me try to do that. But if it takes me till 10 days, if they've cleaned up by then, that's probably a good thing. So, maybe it was just winter dirt and litter. I don't know, but whatever you'd like, Mr. Chair. I mean, if you want, if waiting 10 or 11 days, it seems more than we should do. I'll do my best to write up some notes.
Well, I mean, not to speak for the board, but in my personal opinion, it sounds like while it's an issue that should be addressed, that it's not an emergency, and I think 10 days is appropriate to be able to wait.
I think it's appropriate for me as my punishment to do it when I can, because I did write it on these forms, our official forms, but it's not, there's not enough space. I digressed more with you guys about what I saw. Sure. How about, if it's okay, I'll just promise that, let's see, I'm back in 22nd. I'll promise you by the end of March, I will have revisited and done the notes for the current situation. How's that?
That sounds great. And then we can discuss, it sounds like we'll have discussion before we meet formally again, over email.
It was interesting. I'll just wax for a moment. It made me feel like there was a real reason for doing this more than ever, because I did feel like sort of the defender of the land and the people who could be affected. So it was a reinforcing experience for me that getting out and doing these easements and making sure that our properties are well maintained and all of that is important. So I give you a pitch for getting us all out there and doing that part of it, because it's easy to postpone, but I think there are issues out there.
I agree. And I think it's important for us. That's, why I think one of our goals is to inspect all of the easements each year so we can identify these issues in a timely manner and be good stewards of these easements. So, okay. So maybe by the end of the month, we'll get some notes, and Trudy, I can help you get your easement monitoring reports uploaded to the Google Drive as well when you're back in town.
Okay. Okay. I promise I'll catch up.
Yeah.
I'm done traveling after this trip, and I'll be a steadier influence on myself. Thank you.
Great. So thank you, Trudy, for the updates. We'll address those by the end of the month, and Racine will be able to help us reach out to the property owners to get any and all issues resolved.
Yep, I'm here for that.
Okay, thank you. So the next item on our agenda this evening is I've titled Easement Survey Needs. And really this item came out of a offer, I think we can call it, from pulling up the email right now. From Rob, there was a easement boundary survey. So originally, Rob had reached out to Joanna in January, Rob Savage, our Ward 7 alderperson, and asked, as the city is developing their fiscal year 24 budget, curious if it would be helpful for this board, the Conservancy Board, to receive money for property surveys. So we had a little bit of discussion via email, but we never came to any sort of a conclusion on, does the board have a need for boundary surveys? Does the board have a need for updating mapping of conservation easements? If so, are there priority properties or easements that are high value that, are either outdated or inaccurate, or large areas? So I would like to open discussion to the Conservancy Board's easement survey needs, if any.
I know in the past, our need has been related to wanting to put some city property that's just like fee simple city-owned property into easement. So one was Hawkins Cove that we talked about, and I think we talked about maybe doing Back Creek, part of Back Creek Nature Reserve, and then also maybe part of Truxton Park. But I thought that Jackie had found out that the city could use money from the Critical Area Commission. Like, I guess there's like sometimes people pay fee in lieu
Fee in lieu, yeah.
for critical area alterations or whatever. And so the city got permission to use that money for doing survey property, like survey boundary surveys for conservation easement purposes. So I'm not sure how much that is compared to what we need. And then also I know there was like I think we had been told at some point that that the city didn't need money for Hawkins Cove anymore because they were going to wrap that into whatever park development project they do for that. And so that they weren't looking for money for that anymore. So I don't know. I feel like there's like, for us to decide, like there's like some information we need from the city.
That
With
makes
you, I
sense.
thought we'd already celebrated getting some money to do boundary survey work, but I always thought that the particular need or interest in getting that was it to give us ability then to find some new sites and do the work necessary to move them to preservation status, or easement status, I guess, whichever is the correct word. But that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there were other kinds of issues that required surveys. I don't know.
I think that's correct, Trudy, also, but I think the more immediate ones were ones that we were hoping to put into like currently city-owned properties that are forested that we were hoping to put into easement with like the state of Maryland or Scenic Rivers or somebody. But
You're
but
right.
the thing is that I don't know we ever knew how much that was going to cost compared to how much was available. So I don't know how we would like tell Rob Savage how much we would need. So that's why I feel like we need some information. We're missing some information from the city. And also for like future easements, like we definitely wouldn't know how much we would need because we don't know what it is even. So
Right.
as far as budgeting money that for it in any, particular, like in this particular fiscal year, that wouldn't be really like, we wouldn't have any idea about that.
But yeah, I agree. I think that's well stated. What I also hear is that focusing on properties that are owned by the city would probably be a priority, independent of how much potential money would be available to perform boundary surveys. That places like Ellen Moyer Park, the Back Creek Park, Truxton Park would be a priority. Is that, Karen, is that part of what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I think so. The whole process kind of got started because we at one point there was like discussion amongst the city council about selling off city-owned forested land because they thought it wasn't important for the city to keep. And it made us nervous. And so that was why we started talking about trying to put easements on some of these parcels so that they couldn't be developed, like the city couldn't sell it off and it ends up being developed. And actually Hawkins Cove was like the biggest concern for that probably. So things have sort of taken a different track now, but it would still, I think, be worthwhile to put, some of these larger forested parks that the city owns into easement just for posterity.
So I'm just trying to think of follow-up actions here. I don't know if we need to make any motions at this time, but if we're going to get more information, we need maybe information on how much funding would be available to perform boundary surveys. Is that a part of it that you see?
I think we need information on two things. I think Jackie would have probably the info. One is how much it costs to do the boundary surveys for, and it's unfortunate that neither Linda or Joanna are here because I think they would know more off the top of their heads than I do about which places specifically they were talking about doing. But like, hopefully Jackie might know as well, but like, how much it would cost to do the boundary survey for Truxton Park, how much it would cost to do the boundary survey for Ellen Moyer Park. And then how much money did the city get from the, fee and lieu money to pay for this? And if there's a difference there that needs to be made up, then that's what could go into the budget maybe.
I would guess that the budget process for this year is rolled on past us in this issue, but maybe not. I don't know, how fast it all moves, but I would think maybe for this year, we thank him greatly for his interest and say it will certainly inspire us to be ready in advance of the budget discussions about the situation, how much there's available now and what kind of amount we need. I'm just afraid we'd scurry around now and the budget process will have moved on. But because I don't think we should ask if we're not really sure and ready. I mean, I don't think that increases our credibility with council members. I think it's a great offer, but whatever you want to do. I think they're pretty far along in the budget process, but
I think that's a good point, Trudy. And, whether it's this fiscal year, next fiscal year, or into the future, I think it's good that we're broaching this topic. And, I think Karen brought up a few good points about information that we need to make a decision on what, the priorities would be for performing a boundary survey. I know that it's not inexpensive. So making sure that, it will be of use to the Conservancy board and, the property owner, if it's the city. I think all these are important considerations. So I would like to continue discussing this. I'm sure this will come up in the future. So if everybody can kind of keep it on their radar, I think that would be helpful for us. And, whether or not we do anything about it this year or in the next fiscal cycle, I think remains to be seen. But you're right. I don't want to scramble and, either not use money the best that we can, or, survey something that we didn't need to survey because everybody knows where the boundary is, or, I'm just being hypothetical, but.
I would think that, we may have, maybe I'm missing pieces of this puzzle, but that it may have been a policy or a dream that we had as a board that these city-owned lands should come into a uniform system under our board's process. But I'm not sure if it's the city's dream. And before one gets too far down that path of asking for money to do that, I feel like maybe Rob could help us call the question. I mean, I don't know that I don't know who the question goes to, but I don't know that we know that the city agrees with that. Do we?
They did at one point, but like with everything that we do
Yeah.
on this board, administrations change, heads of departments change. And so sometimes we end up having to ask the question many times over. But till we get to that point where the answer aligns with when we could actually get it done. And you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yes, I know what you mean.
But I know that yeah, I mean, I thought that they had even talked to like MET or somebody about starting that process. So
Well, it would be great if
know.
Alderman Rob Savage wants to help on that policy issue too. I mean, I think it's a kind of almost a level of a city council level of concern, how they want their properties oversighted. But to me, it'd be part of taking the time to make sure we're on a policy path. If we start giving them a budget for boundary surveys and they don't agree that they want those properties put under the conservation board, I don't think that'll work too well either. So.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like we need a little bit more information, both from the city and, you know, potentially institutional information from other members about what has been done previously, and, you know, to help orient us and help us prioritize what we'd like to get done under this item.
Yep.
And Jack, at one time I thought we were also seeking some money to get surveys done on current easements we actually have, because some boundaries we just aren't exactly sure where they are. So we were talking about new easements, but
Right.
Does the board still want to focus on trying to get any boundary surveys done of easements we currently already monitor?
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, that's I know I can't remember where that came up before. Maybe it was either Kingsport or maybe the Brewer Ave easement that we visited. Karen, I can't remember if you were there. I know Patrick and Linda and Joanna, we went to Brewer Ave, and we're just kind of trying to figure out where the easement actually sat in relation to the structures and everything like that. But so, okay, so I don't think there's any actions necessarily here, but as far as next steps, I think just continuing to think about how we prioritize this, and maybe one action is to reach out to Jackie, Guild, and Rob and ask for some more information.
And try to clarify where does the city's position stand on at least a portion of what we might want to do. I think it's time to see if where we are on that issue.
Do we need to make a motion for that action to follow up with the city, or?
We
happy to
haven't
do that.
in the past. We haven't made motions for things like this that we've just discussed. They're kind of discussion items, but
Okay.
you're the new chair. You could do what you feel comfortable with, but I wouldn't say in my experience, we've voted on at the end of a discussion like this where we.
Okay. I'm just questioning, you know, technically taking an action to reach out to the city is an action. And I've got my Robert's Rules of Orders here that I was doing. So I'm just trying to keep it on an even keel. I'm going to make a motion. I think this is appropriate. I'm going to make a motion to follow up with the city, with Jackie Guild and with Rob Savage to get some more information based on the result of this discussion.
I'm happy to second that.
All right. Any further discussion, or we bring it to a vote? All right. So we are moving to follow up with the city for some more information on easement survey needs. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
The motion passes. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with me. The next item on our agenda is our 2023 goals. If you'll note from the last set of meeting minutes, we had no discussion of them in our last meeting. I had a few, I think, ideas of what our 2023 goals are. I don't know if there's anything formalized for 2023 goals. But, you know, things like monitoring our easements, and then a few things on the horizon, supporting the city with the Hawkins Cove. I know there's potentially some conservation easement that could come out of that project. And then other projects like the Cars Beach project, which we discussed in the last meeting along with Hawkins Cove. Do we need anything formal for our 2023 goals? I don't know how we've done it in the past.
I feel like on this one, I go on the voting side, but I think we really need Linda and hopefully Joanne. I mean, I know I wouldn't be prepared to contribute much this evening to that, but I think they're really quite important. And we didn't always have them, and I think it's given us some focus. But those are kind of core historian people and are part of our talent bank. I'd hate to do goals without them. But
I agree. I would always prefer that all of our members can participate. I think that's the way that we're going to have the best discussion. So maybe we push this and have no discussion, and we can discuss 2023 goals when we have, maybe our full membership, or that's okay with everybody, so we can move on. So under updates, a few of these I took from earlier meetings where we didn't have a chance to discuss. And Patrick, this actually ties back to what you were saying about easement discrepancies, and when we've found existing easements that potentially the mapping isn't correct or something just doesn't look right. I don't know if there's any of those up for discussion. I personally don't have anything under that item, but was bringing it over from previous meetings.
Yeah, I don't have anything specifically, but I would definitely be willing to kind of head up a quote unquote task force to go through. I know I think Jack, in your Excel spreadsheet you put together for monitoring in 2022, there was a place where people could list discrepancies or things that they noted. I'd be happy to go through that Excel spreadsheet, see what people noted, also go through all the documents myself and just see, kind of put together a memo or summary of things that I think are missing or what could be discrepancies, and bring that to the board. That way there's just one person who's kind of focused on it.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, I've got up right now the citywide easement summary that I put together, which there are 30 entries. I started populating it a little bit with information, but that's on our Google Drive. And then there's also just the 2022 easement monitoring. That's just the sign up sheet. So I guess that's not really relevant here, but yeah, I think that would be great. I mean, we know that there are discrepancies somewhere, not every record is full and complete. And, do we have deeds and plats and all of these kind of things, I think, are all pieces of information that we would like to have and could figure out. We just need to spend the time to do it.
Yeah, and I'd volunteer to kind of do that, go through all the documents and just on a high level review, and put it in a very simple spreadsheet. And that way the whole board can take a look, and then we can say, all right, these are the easements that really we should dig into a little bit more. And maybe these easements are not, or there's discrepancies, Patrick, you found aren't as important. We can kind of ignore those for now. That's kind of
that would be fantastic. And I'm happy to
Yeah.
help with that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Patrick, if you and I want to coordinate on putting that together.
That sounds good.
thank you.
For
It's sort of
volunteering
a
to do that.
I'm sorry, Karen.
I
It's
just
sort of
said
a
thank you for
mystery to me.
volunteering to do
Yeah.
that.
It's sort of a mystery to me how we get handed over as a board properties that didn't ever come with decent boundaries and descriptions and information. I mean, so many of them grew out of the negotiations with developers. There must have been very clear. I mean, the ones I know about at Homes at the Glen, we certainly know what we agreed to. It's just odd to have so much that never got either done or transferred to us or wherever they went. But it is what it is, I guess. But hopefully whoever gets some new things coming in will make sure we get handed over all the clear details as they come into our inspection process. Because
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Is to have all the information that we need in order to make sure everything is going well on the conservation easements. And I agree. But it sounds like, if we don't have that, what we do have is Patrick.
Yes. Yes, blessings.
So okay, so we'll work through that. I also had on here some other items from previous meetings, Hawkins Cove visioning. And Racine, I saw your email that you sent out to the board along with the minutes that had some information about Hawkins Cove, and also in our meeting minutes from last meeting, there were some notes about Hawkins Cove. Sounds like the project there that the city is going to do is moving forward.
Yeah, the RFP was released on January 25th, and it had an original response with proposals date of February 28th, but they extended that. So proposals will be accepted through March 21st now. Next week, the new director of Rec and Parks will be sworn in. And then very shortly after, Jackie has a meeting scheduled with the new director, and she specifically will be talking about the Hawkins Cove project. And one of the things what she's looking to talk about is, sorry about that, is making the park, making Hawkins Cove into a park, and also putting a conservation easement on it. So that's a discussion that will be coming forth in the future between Jackie and the new director of Rec and Parks. And so we're gonna sort of keep our just sort of wait and see what happens with that discussion and what happens. But the RFP is out. I attached it to the email I sent out this morning. And any questions, you can go to James in procurement, James Mobley, I think his name is. But that's Hawkins Cove. Yeah, that's where it stands right now.
Okay, so it sounds like really not necessarily any actions for this group right now, but maybe eventually there's a conservation easement contemplated for.
Correct.
For part of that project.
Correct.
Okay.
A conservation easement with the board, right?
Well, I don't know the ins and outs of what Jackie specifically is talking about, but what she wants to talk about is making the area into a park area and also putting an easement on it.
Okay.
I mean, Trudy, it won't be a city held easement because it's the city that owns the property. So it'd have to be
that's right. Yeah,
either
that's
MET or Scenic Rivers Land Trust, or somebody else is gonna have to hold the easement. But I mean, I'm sure that they would be happy to have us continue to monitor it, because like that's always, people always are looking for volunteers to help monitor easements. So so whoever ends up holding it, I'm sure would be happy to have us contribute to managing it.
Great.
Okay.
So it sounds like more to come there, but we're just kind of sitting tight for now.
Correct.
The next item, easement monitoring, we kind of briefly touched on this earlier, but and unfortunately we don't have our other members here. So in our Google Drive, there's a place to upload the easement monitoring reports. And Trudy, I will help you get yours onto the Google Drive.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, one of our goals is to monitor all of our easements each year. So, yeah, maybe we need to we had a 2022 easement monitoring sign up sheet. Maybe I could draft, maybe just change this to 2023 and take all the names out, or keep the names the same. And if everybody wants to monitor the same easements again this year, that would be great, because it would be simple for us.
I wonder, as the number of easements has grown and hopefully will continue to grow, if who set the 1 year? I mean, is this something, do we really need to monitor every year, every easement? I'm not sure we've ever totally get that done anyway, but maybe we do. But at some point we might want to talk about whether a 2-year monitoring or a 50-50 monitoring. 1 year we get half of them and the next year we get the other half. I don't know. That's future pondering.
Trudy, I hear what you're saying. As the level of effort grows with a growing number of easements, is it feasible for this group to look at every one of them every year? I don't know the answer to that question, but what I do know is that the second paragraph of our rules of procedure says each year, one or more board members will complete a site visit to each of the conservation easement properties actively monitored by the board. So
well, we helped create those procedures. We could revisit them, but you could revisit the ones that raised problems, annually or something. It's a day when we have some time for brainstorming whether that is something we should revisit. If somebody's good year after year, do you really have to go see them every year? Couldn't you see them every 2?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think that definitely makes sense. In some other, and Karen might be familiar with this as well, and in some other types of like storm drain easements or stormwater facilities, you need to look once every triennially, so once every 3 years. So there are standards for other other type of facilities or easements or things like that are not each year, but what we currently have is each year. So
yeah, no, I understand.
It's an ambitious goal, but I think we did a good job of assigning this 2022 monitoring sign-up sheet. I think we did a good job with that. And unfortunately, we don't have Linda or Joanna here because I'm not sure if they've got any updates on their easement monitoring, but I will.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, just to keep it on everyone's radar that, 2023, we're going to try to monitor easements again. It's my opinion that the easiest thing to do is monitor the same easements we did last year that were assigned to everybody. But, open for discussion. A couple other items on here. I'll say most of which were from previous meetings that either we didn't get to discuss or, hadn't completed our discussion. There was one from a couple meetings back, Naval Academy Resiliency Planning. I don't know if there's any actions for the board there. There's none that I see, but I kept it on this agenda just to keep it on our radar in case any other members had something to discuss about it. Moving on. MET easements, that's another one that was left over from previous meetings. I'm not exactly sure which easements are controlled by MET. Karen, I'm not sure if you know.
No, I think that agenda item relates to us trying to get the MET to hold easements on like Truxton Park and Moyer Park and other city-owned properties.
Okay, so this is seeking another party that would hold the easement on city-owned property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
so and I think. Oh, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that Joanna and Linda had talked to MET and had started that process, or I had gotten them, or they had agreed that they would do it, but so I'm not sure exactly. I know there was like a holdup about having money for boundary surveys, but then they got the money from the fee in lieu. So I don't know, I'm not sure where it ended up after that.
Okay, and unfortunately, neither of they're both not here this evening, so I can't ask them, but we can follow up via email. So that's something to just keep on the radar, is working with MET or a third party who can hold an easement on city-owned property. MOU with county, same thing here. I carried this over from a previous agenda. I'm not sure what the nature of the memorandum of understanding with the county was for exactly, and it might have been before I came onto this board.
Yeah, so that one has a very long history. So So I'll try to run through it really quickly, but years ago, well, so basically the program open space money that goes for purchasing property to be put into conservation. That money comes to the city via the county. So, you know, like the state divvies out the money per county, and then Annapolis is supposed to get a certain percentage of it from the county, from Anne Arundel County. But the amount that we get, that the city gets per year, like the percentage of Anne Arundel's portion that would come per year is like too small to buy anything in Annapolis because property costs so much here. So there had been an informal, like kind of handshake agreement many years ago between the city and the county, that the city would just let the county spend their share for a whole bunch of years until the city had a property they wanted to buy, and then the county would give them extra money that year to buy a property. But then that exact scenario came up under the Moyer administration, which was at a time where there wasn't as friendly a relationship between this. This is my understanding. I'm not like angering anybody watching if I'm misspeaking, but like my understanding is that there wasn't as good a relationship between the city and the county at that time. So the county said no. So, and then the city wasn't able to buy that property, and it's now been, well, it was the golf course that Key Schools now developed into ball fields, I think.
Oh, the Fusco, Fusco Athletic Complex.
So the city wasn't able to buy that. So at that point, this conversation started and the Conservancy Board got interested in trying to formalize that informal handshake agreement about that, you know, the county will chip in what they had like been spending from the city for all these years, you know, over time, when a property comes up in the city that would be worth preserving. And it's gotten a little bit convoluted because since in more recent years, there has been a good working relationship between the city and the county, and they have made some purchases you know, for conservation using program open space money. But it's still, I think, is worth having an MOU to formalize some sort of agreement, so that when in those, if there's ever a time again where there's not a friendly relationship between the city and the county, that there's like, you know, they can't just say no, like that they're like,
Right.
there's like an obligation. So
Formalize.
and I think that, and I think that Jackie was working on
Yeah,
I think it was circulating. Maybe Racine knows, but I think that MOU had been circulating for signatures.
Yeah, I'm really, I don't remember, or I don't know specifically about that.
Okay. So, and it sounds like really, if, you know, it sounds like the city is taking the lead on that, right, Karen, and that the board here was just to maybe advise or recommend or,
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of pushing the city to do it before, and I think the city is doing it now. Actually, now that I think about it, I think maybe the last thing we heard from Jackie was that the county's attorneys were reviewing it or something. But because it basically has to be signed by the county executive and the mayor of the city. So that's why, like in the past, it wasn't a binding agreement, because it was like a handshake agreement between the heads of the two recreation of parks departments. And so that's not, it has to be the two executives.
yeah.
So but I think that it sounded like the city was moving that forward at this point. So
Great.
I think that like we're a less active role at this point, except just to check up on it, make sure it's still progressing.
Okay.
I think it might be time to do one of those checkups and with Jackie, and see where it is. We have a history of so many things we think are moving, of discovering they weren't moving. They were just moving around in circles, including this MOU. So it seems like such a good time to get an agreement between the city and the county. It would be a shame to let it go. We have 4 years
Well,
now, but
I'll check with Jackie on this.
That'd be great.
And see what she has to say, and I'll email the board.
Great.
Thank you, Racine. That would be wonderful. All right, keep it moving here. We're at 6:30. I think this invitation went till 7:30, but I think traditionally our meetings end at 7.
I'm going to have to go very shortly now too.
Okay. Well, I think we're almost done here. Maybe we can get finished up with all of our old and new business before you have to go, Trudy. So
Maybe if I'd stop talking, we could get done, huh?
No,
Okay.
you're fine. So the next item I had on here was the Greenway map and next steps. I know that's another holdover. I don't think there was discussion in our last meeting based on the meeting minutes. So I don't know if there's anything for this board to take action on there or anything for discussion. My understanding is that this was kind of a discussion also with Alderman Savage.
Well, to me, this is the item that I hope is on our 2023 goals, which is to be an active participant in looking at the comp plan when it comes out in draft form, and seeing how our ideas for greenways and things that we did spend some time and energy on have been incorporated. I know we felt good, like we were having good discussions, but we have yet to see the comp plan come out. So, and I don't know what with losing the planning director, if it's going to be even slower or what, but in any case, that we certainly should be, when it comes, I think that should be a very important task for us to give them.
That's a good point. I agree. I think that's somewhere that we could bring a lot of value and support in our feedback and recommendations. So yeah, I heard that the comprehensive plan might be out this spring, but I'm not sure when. So when that does come out, I think that makes a lot of sense. We'll get that on the agenda, and that should be something that we should look at and maybe provide comments, or I don't know if there's a formal process for making recommendations, but
I get that it's a matter of some dispute of what the process will be when it comes out. I heard a little of that heat and light going on. So,
well, I look forward to it. We'll face that heat and light when the time comes. The next item we have on here is our annual report. Thank you to Trudy and Linda. I think we're kind of our two all-stars getting that put together. I've got it pulled up here. Racine, can you remind me, do we need to accept this report as a board, or is it technically accepted? Is it finalized?
Well, I don't know if you have to formally vote on it. My experience with the other commission that I work with is they write the report as a unit, and they agree on it and they submit it. I've never known them to vote on, whether or not, to approve it.
Okay.
So it seems that if you write it and you agree on it, you can submit it.
yeah.
So written, so agreed, and so submitted. Racine, I think
just a quick FYI, Hillary asked me this week, I told her I'd ask you about it during this meeting, about the annual report. So she's looking for it.
Okay. And that was finalized on, I have here 16th of January. Racine, I don't know if you have, do you have the report?
I don't remember getting a copy.
Okay, I will send you this this version that I have that I signed.
Okay.
Apparently.
Okay, send it to me and I will forward it on to Hillary.
Great. Okay, that takes care of that. And then plan director changes, all this was on there was to just update or remind folks that Director Laplace, who was at our last meeting, is leaving or has left the city or is leaving very shortly. And so I'm sure there will be some changes in the future with maybe a new planning director. I think acting director right now is Tom Smith, who's been with the city for a long time, but and also it sounds like there's a new Rec and Parks director as well. So just some changes going on that we should, just be aware of, I guess. That's why I put it on here.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of details about either one. I do know that Archie Trader is still with the city.
Okay.
He's working on a program with the Annapolis Police Department. That's going to be his focus. I don't remember the name of the new director, but she comes from Baltimore, I believe. And she's being sworn in next week, I think Monday. And again, Jackie is planning on meeting with her very shortly thereafter. What else is there? Michael Laplace. It came out of, it was a surprise to everyone, but he is no longer, he's gone. He's no longer with the city.
Got it. All right, thank you, Racine. So that brings us to the end of this agenda. I should have included an item on here called new business. If anyone has any other items they would like to bring up for discussion, I open the floor to you. Hearing no new items for discussion, I think we had a great discussion this evening.
Yeah, I think we've had fun.
Do we need to make a motion to adjourn?
Yes, you do.
Hey, Jack, before we do that, just one housekeeping item.
Please.
I know the board approved the rules and regs, but do we know if the city council ever adopted our rules and regs?
That's a great question. In the Google Drive, we have draft rules and procedures, and then we have a document called rules and procedures.
So I know there's a process to actually city council, or it had to go through, I think, several stages to be approved, and want to make sure that gets done at some point.
Right, and we had to publish in the newspaper. I think there was some.
So just
I
something
remember,
to keep in the back of our minds.
Yeah, Ashley was really helpful in letting the board know what we had to do to get the rules of procedure adopted. And you're right, Patrick. I think it had to go before city council, and there was some sort of public notice procedure.
Jack, we've now hit about 3 or 4 times on things that we've sort of have a piece of the action and have sort of lost. I wonder if it might be a useful addition to just keep track of these things that we've sent off into the world or the city, and call them pending items, and just keep reviewing and reminding ourselves. Because I, to be honest, one of the frustrations of being on the board is this cycling and recycling, as Karen has so elegantly described. You think you've gotten there, and then it drifts off, and then the cast of characters change. And I just think maybe we need to be a little more assertive as a board of saying, which are these things that we are tracking, or and following, so that we don't spend a lot of time worrying about where are they in our meetings, but maybe Racine can help us update them, since most of them are things embedded in the city process, or however we do it. But I feel like, we could work a while and talk about something, and then it kind of floats away from us. And most of the time in our history, it seems like it floats away from action, if I'm honest. It might be at least satisfying to see a list that says we're tracking these things. These are things we initiated or participated in that we care about, and we're going to see where they are periodically, every 2 or 3 months or something. I don't know.
I appreciate that comment, and I agree with you. I think there's a lot of value in tracking what I would call our unfinished business.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And according to Robert's rules of order here, that should go on our next agenda, unfinished business, and I will put the rules and procedures on there. Ashley has her hand up. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, apologies, guys. I've had months of sick kids, but I'm catching back up with you guys. I can get the rules and procedures rolling next week. I didn't realize I missed, I think, your last meeting or two, because it fell on a time when I had a kid either throwing up or with an ear infection. But I can get it on. It needs to go on a rules committee, so I'll pull them. I'll get it on a rules committee. I can get it on the website, which is your next thing that you have to get posted, so I can talk to the webmaster, and I'll copy you, Jack. And then we have to do a newspaper advertisement, which I can format, but then we just have to find money, which will probably be a Jackie Racine thing. But I can work on all of that first thing next week.
Thank you so much. That would be great.
Yeah,
So go ahead. Look at that, Trudy. We're making progress already.
Yeah, we
so
could, we,
I knew you guys were close, and then I just got distracted by 3 months of germs. But
so we'll put it, we could put it on our list of unfinished business and then have a satisfying early completed beside
Yeah.
it.
yeah, so I can do that. And then Racine, if you could copy me on the, on the email about program open space. I know we had gotten close because I had been working on that, but I didn't know where it gotten. I know Jackie had sort of taken more of a point position on it, but I'm happy to help with that as needed as well, depending on where Jackie is.
Now, when you say on program open space, what are you, is this
The
specific to any-
MOU with the county. Sorry, the
Oh,
MOU with
okay.
the county.
Okay,
Because I drafted a lot of that. And I do have a working relationship with their lawyers. I don't want to step on Jackie's toes, so I'd be curious to see what she's doing first, but I'm happy to help as well.
okay, all right. I will talk to Jackie tomorrow.
Thank you both. That also goes under unfinished business. So
Yes.
maybe not necessarily absolutely our business, but definitely something that we want to stay informed on. And so that's great. All right. Well, if there are no other items for new business, I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?